Hello and welcome to Jackson's Job. Today we are going to make some thumbprint cookies. These are an old-fashioned cookie, sometimes also referred to jewel cookies. And it's not hard to see why. Look how beautiful they are. The ingredients aren't that difficult. However, this is a bit of a time-consuming recipe, so be prepared. Please preheat your oven to 350 or 180 degrees Celsius, and then you're going to toast some nuts. You're going to need 3/4 of a cup or about 85 grams. That's about a cup before you chop them up. Lay them out in a single layer, and you need some pecans, walnuts, peanuts, whatever kind you want to use. Almonds works well too. You want to bake them 8 to 12 minutes or until they're lightly golden brown and you just start to smell them. It's going to be wonderful smelling in your house today. You want to cool them completely before you go on to the next step. Once the nuts are completely cooled, you are going to finely chop them. You can use a knife like I'm doing here, or you can use a food processor or a blender or even a nut chopper. If you're going to do this by hand, prepare for this to take 5 to 10 minutes, maybe even longer. If you use a food processor or a blender, it's only going to take a few pulses and you'll be done within a minute. Once you have them all chopped up, you're going to put them on a plate, in a bowl, or in a baggie and set them aside. Now, if you want, you could reserve some of them back, so if you don't use them all, you can use them for another project. If you have them all in the same container, you will not be able to use them for another project if there are leftovers, because you will be dipping raw cookie dough and egg white into these nuts. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to separate one large egg, that is 50 grams, and I'm going to do this by running it through my fingers and catching the yolk with my fingers. It's quite of a sticky process, so if you don't want to do this, you can use the eggshell or an egg separator. You now want to whisk up your egg whites until they're nice and light and fluffy. You can use a fork for this, or a whisk, or even a blender. It should look like this when you're done. Set your egg aside, and then we're going to move on to the next step. In a large bowl, we have some softened butter. It's a half a cup, 1 stick, 113 grams. To that, we're going to add in some salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon, 0.625 grams. Now, if you're really sensitive to salt, you may want to skip it if your butter is salted. You want to blend these together until they're nice and smooth and creamy. You can use a mixer or a stand mixer here. Just do it on a low speed. You do not want to create a lot of air in these cookies. When you have it creamed together, you're going to put in 1/4 cup of sugar, 50 grams. You can use white or brown sugar if you like. Some people prefer these with brown sugar. The white sugar will give the more traditional shortbread taste. Beat it until it's nice and smooth. Again, don't put in a lot of air. Now we're going to add in some vanilla, and you can use any kind of extract you like, or if you want to make them even fancier, put in some lemon zest. But we're going to use 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 5 milliliters. And we're going to mix this until it's nice and smooth. If you're doing this by hand, beating against the sides of the bowl really does make it a lot easier, and it doesn't put in a lot of air. Now we're going to add in that 1 large egg yolk from earlier. That's 20 grams. Do you say yolk or yolk? Yolk sounds weird to me, but I think that's how you're supposed to say it. You want to beat this until it's no longer curdled, and it should be nice and smooth like this. Again, if you're using a hand mixer or a stand mixer, only beat on a low speed. Now we need to add in some flour. We need 1 cup or 150 grams. You want to mix this until it comes together nicely. From time to time, make sure you're scraping down the sides and even scrape down your spoon as needed. Failure to do so could end up with a dry cookie dough. Once your dough looks like this, squeeze it and see if it's easy to work with. If it is too soft and it's just sticking to your hands way too much, you need to chill the dough. You want to chill it about 20 minutes or until it's firm. You want to cover it and put it in the fridge. If it's not too sticky to work with, you could go ahead to the next step, but if it is sticking to your hands too much, go ahead and chill it. Don't skip that step because you can end up with some really greasy cookies. Once you have this done, you want to separate this dough into 18 portions. That's about a tablespoon's worth of dough, or around 14 grams or so. Then you're going to roll the dough into a nice round ball like this. Once you have all your cookie dough ready, if it's starting to become too soft, chill it again for 20 minutes. Now we're going to get that egg white from earlier, our tray of pecans, and we're going to take one of the dough balls, we're going to roll it around in the egg whites, and then we're going to roll it around in the pecans. Now using your thumb, you're just going to press down in the middle and create a well. If you want to, you can do a crisscross pattern with your thumb, and that way you will get a deeper well. It's up to you how deep you want to make it and how wide you want your cookies. Sometimes you'll see the dough start to split around the edges. That's completely okay. You just want to pat it back together. A little bit of cracking is normal for this dough, and it doesn't spread out very far, so you can space these pretty close to each other, about an inch apart or 2.5 centimeters, maybe even a little bit closer, because they really don't change shape much. These are a shortbread cookie and there's no leavening agent in it, so you're not going to see a lot of movement. Now you're going to need some jam or jelly. You need 3 tablespoons worth, that's about 60 grams. And in each cookie dough, well, we are going to put about a half a teaspoon of jam. Now, one thing you might want to do is spoon the jam out into a separate container. That way you won't have to worry about cross-contamination. So go ahead and put it in a different container. And to make it easier to work with, you could stir up the jam a little bit and it will work a lot easier. I am using a triple berry jam here, but you can use raspberry, you can use apricot, strawberry, any type that you like. You can also use a jelly. The jelly will be more fluid. You want to bake these 14 to 18 minutes or until they're just lightly golden brown and you start to see the jelly take on this matte-like finish. It should look similar to this. Now you want these to set on the tray because if not, they will fall apart at least 2 to 3 minutes. Leave them alone. Then you're going to carefully remove them and try not to touch the center because that jam or jelly is still really piping hot and you could burn yourself. Put them on a cooling rack and let them cool down completely. Now some people like to dust the tops of these with powdered sugar, and as they sit, that powdered sugar will dissolve into the jelly or jam and you'll just see the powdered sugar on the edges. I personally am not a fan of this. I think it makes them too sweet. These are an old-fashioned cookie and they're not supposed to be very sweet. The jelly's supposed to be really sweet and then the cookie's supposed to be pretty neutral. They are melt in your mouth soft. Look at how wonderful these are. So what kind of jam or jelly are you going to use in these cookies? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy baking.